Hello Year 10, it's Mrs. Joyce again. You must be sick of hearing my voice this way. So this week we are looking at speech do's and don'ts and how to plan your way to success. Mr. Dennehy has labelled this donut fear. We trust him, I'm sure. So before I get started, this video is primarily for the people who are not in school this week. If you're not in school this week for whatever reason, you can start with this video, watch all the way through, do everything it asks you to do, and you will be a very, very happy bunny. If you are in school at all this week, do not watch this video until after you have been into school. Reason is that this is the lesson that we will be teaching you in school. Okay, so you don't need this until after you've done the lesson, because once you've done that, then you've got the opportunity to look back over it and make sure you haven't forgotten anything. Okay, so here we go. Our starter. What can you remember from last lesson? So there are 5 questions on the board, and I would like you to pause the video now and answer. They are: what is rhetoric? What type of rhetoric uses evidence from the past? Which rhetoric discusses the state of affairs right now in the present? And which type of rhetoric talks about what could be in the future? And the final one, which part of rhetoric looks at using factual information? Okay, so pause the video and answer questions. Okay, fantastic. So hopefully your answer to what is rhetoric should have been something along the lines: the art of working out the best way to persuade people to do what you want. It's basically working out what's going to work for you, which is what we want you to do with this piece of writing. Okay. The second question: what type of rhetoric uses evidence from the past? The key thing there is the past and evidence. And the answer is forensic or judicial rhetoric, because we're making a judgment, judicial, about evidence, which is where, and the word forensic, remember, forensic scientists, they're looking for evidence. Okay. Which type of rhetoric discusses the state of affairs now in the present? This is deliberative or epidictic rhetoric. Now, the best example of this is something like a wedding speech, like we're here to celebrate the something. Okay, we're here to talk about what we're doing right now. Okay, and that can be very, very powerful, especially when you're talking about things that aren't the way they should be. The fourth question: what type of rhetoric talks about what could be? And here we go. We get to hear Mrs. Joyce mispronounce things again. Okay, deliberative rhetoric or symboleuticon. We'll get that. Symboleuticon, deliberative. Okay, what could be? Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." Okay, we're talking about the future. What could possibly happen? If you remember when we looked at Obama last week, he was talking about what could happen if he was brought into office. Okay. And then the final question: which part of rhetoric looks at using factual information? Well, factual information is logical information, which is why we have logos from the word logic. And if you think, okay, the 3 parts: ethos, what about you, your ethos, who you are, logos, logic, and pathos, emotion. Okay, and logos was the answer to that question. Okay, fantastic. So what are we up to today? We're going to focus on the forest, not tree, because if you remember, we're back in the forest. So here we go. What we're going to do today, we're going to explore a range of different approaches to the ways in which you can present to an audience. We're going to see some good things, and we're going to see some really, really bad stuff. Okay, this is going to make you laugh. Okay. We are going to look at some specific examples of genuine heartfelt words and sarcastic and irony-drenched ranting, okay? We're not just talking about being very serious. We're talking about using humour, because humour is one of the best ways to get your audience to agree with you, okay? And we're going to think about, where do you want to your speech? Your speech is going to be very serious. Is your speech going to be very funny and ironic, satirical? Okay. We're going to look at how to outline and plan your writing in the style of a TED Talk. I would assume that most of you have seen a TED Talk. If nothing else, I know that Mr. Burton uses them in assemblies all the time because they're amazing. So we are going to have a look at that as well. You won't be actually planning your writing this week. That's something you're going to do next week when I view a sheet which has actually got the exam material on it as well. But this is a good way to get started. Okay. And we're not going to be focusing on your individual writing today. Okay, it's all about the big picture. The writing flair will be added later. Your personality will be added later. Today, we are researching and investigating what makes a good speech. So, there are 4 videos in front of you. The first is a hilarious politician with the worst speech ever. The second is Miss South Carolina making an absolute idiot of herself. This one here is a public speaking competition gone horribly wrong. And this is another speech where I believe he actually passes out at the end. All of these are linked in the PowerPoint that is on the Show My Homework task. I can't show you these now. I'm going to pause the video, or rather you're going to pause the video and you're going to go to that PowerPoint and have a look at them now. Okay, so we're back. So the things you should have really noticed about them, okay? The hilarious politician with the worst speech ever. Oh my God, he is so over the top, but he actually does not know what he is saying at all. He actually stops mid-sentence to check his notes. And when he gives that Albert Einstein quotation and gets it wrong, his best quotation ever, the most important quotation to him, and he utterly stuffs it up. He has no clue what he's talking about. And one of the reasons for that is it's probably because that speech wasn't written for him. Oh, sorry, it wasn't written by him. It was written for him. And that's one of the reasons why we say to speak from the heart, about what is important to you. Miss South Carolina didn't understand the question. So when she was asked the question, she just blathered. And it was proper, she had no clue. Public speaker fail, bottom down here. This one, again, she didn't really know what she was talking about. She wasn't very clear, a little bit confused, really. And the epic fail speech, pass out one, well, I'm going to leave that one to you, okay? I mean, they're all very funny, but at the end of the day, they're not very good. No one is going to come out of that remembering what they were saying, if nothing else, because Miss South Carolina couldn't actually understand what she was saying. But no one's going to remember what they said. They're going to remember the mistakes they made. They're going to, oh my God, did you hear that politician? I just had no idea what he was saying. He was too busy shouting. Okay? And he obviously didn't know what he was talking about. Now, looking at where it goes right, using humour to deliver a message. So you've got 3 examples here. This first one here about replying to spam, this is actually the video that's been embedded here. And it is really, so watch it. Second one here, socials. This is Rachel speaking, which is he's a TV personality, and it's all about basically how he feels about something. And the third, the funniest graduation speech of all time. Now, this is a young person speaking, and I think it's really important to know that, because as a young person, he's not, I mean, he's 18, so he's a little bit older than you guys, but he's still talking from the heart, and he's talking to his audience. One of the most important things, he knows his audience. So again, you're going to pause the video. You're going to go PowerPoint that I've hooked up to your homework, so you can access all of those speeches and have a look. So, video. Okay, and we're back. So what you should have noticed is that all of these videos use humour really very, very well. The first one, nothing else, his talk is very funny, about something we all know about. We all get spam. We all know it's a complete waste of time. And he basically turns wasting time around on the other person. And this leads to some quite hilarious consequences. But ultimately what he's doing is he's talking about the abuse of mass marketing and mass emailing. So it's very interesting to go through it. David Mitchell. Well, David Mitchell is being paid to say sarcastic things. That's what he does. That's his job when he's not talking about it, writing about it. Okay, and everything that he says there, you can hear in his voice that it's dripping with irony. He's not being serious at all with a lot of what he says. And the funniest graduation speech of all time is just really, really sweet. He is literally bringing in anecdotes about his class to talk about the fact that basically he loves them all. He wants them to be happy and laughing. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch, because at the end of the day, although they are laughing, they're laughing with him. He's picked books that he knows will appeal. That very, very beginning, the first girlfriend, the second girlfriend, the third girlfriend. He obviously someone that is known for having more than one girlfriend in the last few years. When he's saying those things and he's talking about his own maturation, his own growth, his friends are laughing along with him, because he's like, yeah, we remember that. Oh, we remember that. Okay. So really take the time to watch those videos again if you get the opportunity to, and just see how they do it well. Okay. So we don't always have to be really, really funny. We can be serious. And some of you might be writing speeches that are. So these are two they are pretty much bits of the same speech, but one drops in clips from other people talking about climate change, whereas the one which is embedded here is just Leonardo speaking. This is really, really powerful, and I'm actually not going to go through it with you. I just want you to watch it. I want you to think about, how does he appeal to ethos? How does he use ethos to appeal? How does he use himself? How does he use logos? How does he use logic? And how does he use pathos? How to appeal to your emotions? And really think very, very, very carefully about that. Again, all the videos are in the PowerPoint on homework. So go back in and press play and have a listen. Okay. Very quick one today. So, the planning process. So, the two key questions you need to ask yourself is, what is my message, and what is the most effective way to deliver it to the audience in front of me? There are a few things you know. You need to know what you're. And the second thing, you need to know what you want your audience to understand and what you want them to take away from it. So, if it's why Arsenal is the best football team ever, or why I really want to go to Bangladesh, or why I think that school should be banned, or why I think the school day should be shorter, 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote. Whatever it is, we need to know very, very clearly what that message is. And if you don't know what message is at the beginning, then when you're writing it, you can't squeeze it in all over the place, and things start wrong, and suddenly you find yourself talking about a completely different thing. And the same thing, what's the most effective way to deliver it to the audience in front of me? Okay, so you know your audience. It's me or one of your other teachers. It's the 8 or 9 people in your social bubble. Or if you are doing this from home, it will be your family and a teacher. Okay, so you have to think about who your audience is and how you are going to deliver it to them. Okay, do you think your audience will like humour? Do you think that they appreciate sarcasm or understand sarcasm? Do you think that actually the sort of topic you're talking about is actually going to make it really offensive if you talk about it in a like an ironic way? Think really carefully about your audience. Okay. So this is what you're going to do. In your next task, which is your home learning task, you are going to look at how TED Talks are planned. And it is planned in this manner. Okay, we start with what. You introduce the topic to the audience. You include elements of anecdotes or examples. Okay, you want to capture their attention at this point. This is a good place to put humour or sarcasm in if you are doing something where you want to get serious at another point. Okay, this is a great time to set the mood and the tone for your writing. You really want to get them to understand who you are and what you're doing. Okay, so you want your ethos in here, who you are, anecdotes. Your audience need to know who you are and why you're talking about this so they can trust you. Okay, capture their attention. Tell stories that are going to make them laugh, make them shocked. Okay. So what? Why does this topic matter to your audience? Okay. Finding ways to make it relevant and interesting to the people in front of you. So this is where you start bringing in your logos, your information that makes it interesting. Okay, so this is where you're going to put in facts, any expert opinions. This is where you're going to be talking about it from your perspective. Why do you think it's important, and why should it to your audience? So you might move from the first person into direct address, or actually including your audience in that first address. So including yourself in it. So going from we, yeah, like Obama did. And then now what? What do you want them to do about it? Okay. Should they be thinking about it from a new perspective, or getting up and doing something? So this is when you want your deliberative rhetoric to come in. Okay, your symbologicon. You want to be about what the future could be like. Okay, you need to give things specific they can do. Otherwise, you're just lecturing. Okay, they need to feel that they are part of the change you want made. Okay, so that's when we're thinking about bringing them in. Okay, and all the way through, especially if you're looking at something very persuasive, you really want to be using that pathos. You want to be bringing in that into language, getting an emotional reaction from them, even if it's still emotional. Okay, because we as human beings, we react to emotion far more than we react to logic. So this is your home learning, and I'm going to talk you through the task right now. Okay, so you have a handout attached to your show my homework. You'll be getting this at school if you are in school. Okay, you need to choose and watch any. Okay, so go onto YouTube, type in talk about something you're vaguely interested in, and you're going to use this sheet to break it down into some individual elements. Okay, and you'll note that there's like 10 different things you have to do. Follow it through. Okay, so the title, who is, how many views has it got? Is it successful? What's the main point, the thesis talk? Those of you who are in my class will actually done some work on thesis for your poetry essay. Okay, it's exactly the same idea, the main point, the purpose. Circle any adjectives that describe the talk. The ethos. So how do they build that ethos? How do they appeal to emotions via pathos? And how do they use logos, logical stuff? Then, okay, what do they do to engage the audience in terms of their body language, the way they speak, the way they look at people, their eye contact. Think about their actual public speakers. And because you've got two things, I want the time marked in. If your first one is at 2 minutes 45 seconds, that's what it needs to be. Okay. Then, two specific things you learned from this presentation. So, did it actually have any effect on you? Give one piece of constructive criticism you would give to improve the presentation. What could they improve on? And what group of people benefit the most from hearing this take? Now, that's actually a really interesting one. Who is it aimed at, but who needs to hear it? Okay. And you can do it several times if you want. You don't have to use the sheet, except use it to guide your notes. You may find it easier just to have the sheet next to you and type this straight into a Word document and upload it to your teachers there, because this is what I'm expecting to have this week. Or you might find it easier to handwrite notes and then take a picture. I don't mind. But this is what you'll need to submit along with what's on the next page. So that's your first bit. Your second bit is you're going to use this talk planning sheet, which is also attached to Show My Homework. You're going to develop the talk into a fully formed outline. So this is your first attempt at planning. Okay? If you don't have the answers on the sheet, that's fine. Give me a shout. Give your teacher who's at school a shout. Give your normal English teacher a shout if that's neither of those two people. But really focus on it, okay? This doesn't need to be done in a heap of detail. We're going to be fleshing it out next week. But this is the basics, okay, the real basics, so that you can come in next week with something with a little bit more purpose, okay? And finally, cool down. So before you end this, I'd like you to do these 3 things. The first thing I'd like to do is write down 3 really bad things people do in speeches. What stupid things do people do? Then I'd write down 2 things that people can do to get their audience's attention. Really think about that ethos. How did Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, encourage people to listen to him? And finally, what's the message you want to convey in your speech? What do you want your audience to go away knowing? Okay, it's a really short one this week because most of it's watching videos and talking about them. If you do want to talk about any of the videos, even if it's just to give your ideas, please feel free to submit things with your idea on them to your teachers. Similarly, this would be really good actually, if you get in contact with any of your friends, because they're all going to have access to this as well, and you can have a chat about how stupid Miss Carolina was. Yeah. There does need to be a submission this week from this. That is the 2 sheets that are on the end here. Hopefully you will come out of this feeling a bit more comfortable about your speech, and I will see you when I see you. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.